Hey guys, welcome to the round 14 AFL betting trend report and preview video. Here's where we go through every matchup this weekend, which there is 6 of them. So a smaller round this weekend. We're at like the mid-season buy point. But we'll go through each game, go through what the odds are, what the odds were in their previous meetings, who's been winning, who's been covering, have the games been going over or under the total points line, and any other betting trends on those matchups, plus what I'm considering betting into in each of these games. Before we get into that, though, I just want to quickly review last weekend, round number 13. We had 8 games total. The away teams covered 5 of those 8 games. So away teams performed really well. Underdogs performed really well as well, covering 6 of the 8 games. The only 2 favorites who covered were the Swans against Geelong and Carlton against Essendon. So a very successful weekend if you backed a number of the underdogs at the spread. The underdogs also won 5 of the 8 games. The only favorites who won their games were, as I mentioned, Carlton, Sydney, and St Kilda, who didn't cover the spread, but it was a 3.5 point spread there on that game. But they were able to win the game against Gold Coast by 3 points. North Melbourne got their first win of the season. And Brisbane Lions back to form. Richmond broke a long run of outs as well against the Crows. So interesting round overall. Of the games, 5 of the 8 went under the total points line. So if you look overall on the season, the under edge is just a little bit further in front. 59 games have gone under. It's largely thanks to the fact that the Western Bulldogs are the only real big overside in the league this year. But there's quite a number of undersides, like Adelaide, 5 of their 8 games have gone under. Night matches, all 6 have gone under. Essendon, Fremantle, another big underside. Richmond, another big underside, and St Kilda, another big underside. So there's a lot of teams at that 5 to 7 kind of range, but there's just a few outliers in there, and that's why we break it down by when they're home favorite, when they're an away underdog, day matches, night matches, and so on. So you can kind of look to see. So, for example, where the Bulldogs are 10-3 overall, away they're 5-1. As a favorite, they're 7-2 to the over. As an away favorite, they're 4-0. Night matches, they're 7-1 to the over. So this little stuff you get inside the bet finders. I'll put the link in the description. But that's how the over-under record is looking so far this season, and you get the same with against the spread and who's been covering, etc. We'll get on to this weekend's game. So round 14 starts on Friday night this week with the lesser games. Brisbane at home to St Kilda. The Lions bounce back to form, I guess you could say, or a really impressive performance last week against the Western Bulldogs down at Marvel Stadium. They do have a good record there. Now they get back home to the Gabba. They're a 4-goal favorite here against St Kilda. Brisbane have covered 3 of the past 4 and won the past 4 against the Saints. I do expect Brisbane to win this game and win it fairly comfortably. I think St Kilda has just been, they've got 2 wins in a row, but they've been, against the West Coast Eagles, and then last week against Gold Coast, winning that game by 3 points at home. So hardly like strong form or anything, and Brisbane really should take care of them at the Gabba. I expect Brisbane to win and win well. Be leaning towards the minus 24.5, but be looking for, a way to get that number slightly lower and pair it up with something else for this game. Likely St Kilda's team total, maybe an alternate line to go under. St Kilda are really struggling to score lately, and they have a history of struggling to score against Brisbane Lions. 60 in their last game, 56, 66, 57 across the last 4 matchups against the Lions. And at the end of the day this season, the Lions have been, compared to last year, they've been really strong defensively and struggling in attack. So last year, it was the opposite way. They were really strong in attack, but struggled defensively. So if they can get both sides going, then they can still be a force this season, but still have a long way to go. But this is a really important and very winnable game for the Lions. Western Bulldogs take on Fremantle. The Bulldogs minus 5.5. Fremantle won the last matchup, which was earlier this season, round 7 at Optus Stadium. They won that game 95 points to 71. No real team trends for this matchup. There is a trend on the total with 6 of the past 8 going over at 167.5. I don't mind the over in this game. I feel like this is a game that definitely could go over that number. So that's one way I'm considering betting this game. The other way is taking Fremantle at the +5.5. They come off the bye. Western Bulldogs have been very, very inconsistent. And if you look through like their recent form, it's not actually that strong. Like the teams they've been beating have also been performing badly in their other games. So I think that raises a few question marks and red flags overall on the Dogs. And this is definitely a winnable game for Fremantle, who've been traveling well this season and been performing well in a lot of their games outside of Perth. So do like them +5.5. Just haven't decided whether I want to take the over or the +5.5 at this stage, but that's the way I'm leaning. Richmond versus Hawthorn. Richmond finally got the win last week. Hawthorn have been in really good form the past 6 to 8 weeks. They come up as 13.5-point favorites after their win against GWS last weekend. I think they win this game here against Richmond. Even though they don't have a great record, Richmond have won 4 of the past 5, and we had the draw back in 2021. And they've covered 2 of the past 3 versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn did cover the game round 19 last season when Richmond only won by 1 point. Hawthorn, if they hold form, should win this game. Richmond got the win last week against Adelaide, but Adelaide were really, really bad. And I think Hawthorn can be winning this game at the MCG. The past 4 between these sides have gone over. 167.5 is the total line. Fairly similar to their recent matchups, all in the high 160s to low 170s at 171.5. No real lean on the total, but with the past 4 going over, I still do find it a little bit tough to take the over, especially with the Tigers being the worst attacking side in the league. Do think the line at 13.5 is good enough to take for the Hawks, to be honest. Hawthorn last week when I did this preview on the Tuesday for last weekend's games, Hawthorn were +6.5, I think, from memory, against GWS. They were backed into favorite for that game, then pushed out a little bit late. But now we're only getting -13.5 against Richmond, who are a much worse side than GWS. So do like the Hawks on the line there. Adelaide versus the Sydney Swans. The Swans 20.5-point favorites. They've won the past 4 against the Crows and covered 3 of the past 4. When they met in round 23 last season here, Sydney only won that game by 1 point and were 13.5-point underdogs. So quite a lot has changed then in basically half a season of football. And Swans big favorites to win this game. At -20.5, I do like the Swans here. Last week, they were off the bye at home against Geelong. Geelong really got the jump on them. I think it was 32-3-ish was the score around the quarter time mark. And then Sydney, from that point, went on to win that game by 30 points. So huge turnaround. Don't see the Crows getting the jump on them. Crows coming off a loss last week against Richmond. They do have the extended rest and stay 2 weeks in a row at home, but don't think it's going to be enough for them to get over the Swans here. Like when Geelong got a jump on them by 5 goals and the Swans turned that margin around to win the game by 5 goals, and they're a much better side than the Crows. Find it difficult to see Sydney not covering this spread. 3 of the past 4 have gone over between these two sides. And I do think that total at 168.5 is slightly low. I actually have this number at 176. So I do feel like potentially could be a high scoring game here between the Crows and the Swans. North Melbourne versus Collingwood. This is a game I'm probably staying away from this weekend. Collingwood should win and win fairly comfortably. But I do think the -40.5 is slightly high. I'm definitely not keen on that, but just North Melbourne got the win on the board last weekend. Want to see how they come through that. They're coming back from the trip to Perth. It's not really an ideal situation. But they may be able to hang around in this game against the Pies. They have covered the past 3 versus Collingwood. However, Collingwood have won 6 of the past 7. So expect Collingwood to get the job done. North may be able to hang around and keep it around that 30-ish point margin. if they play near their best, but that is the question mark you have to ask yourself on that game. Greater Western Sydney versus Port Adelaide. The Giants are 9.5-point favorites here. They won the matchup last season during the finals against Port Adelaide, 93 points to 70. Prior to that, Port Adelaide won the 4 games prior. Port have covered the past 5 versus GWS. They do have a really good record in this matchup. I do like Port here at plus 9.5. I'm surprised the odds aren't closer for this game. These sides haven't met at Giant Stadium since 2013. They've had a couple of games in Canberra during that time, but most of the meetings have been either in Adelaide or elsewhere. So that's my only concern with Port here. It's just not having played at the venue, but GWS are really struggling at the moment. So I do find it hard to have them as almost a 10-point favorite here. Over their last 5 games, they've only had 1 win, which was against Geelong by 4 points. But have lost to Hawthorn, the Bulldogs, Essendon, and the Sydney Swans during that time. But the main concern is just their scoring. They've failed to score over 79 points during those 5 games as well. So that's the major issue there for GWS. And I think, we're getting plus 9.5 here for Port Adelaide, who are a capable scoring side. They're ranked 6th in the league for points scored. Coming off the bye into this game, definitely one where there's a big chance of an upset. Plus, you add into the fact that GWS play the Sydney Swans the following week. So there's another little bit of a look-ahead opportunity for them as well. So Port at the plus 9.5 for the final game of the round. The totals is 168.5. 7 of the past 9 between these two sides have gone under. Both sides fairly, not all that strong defensively. So kind of will be a little bit of a momentum game. So just staying away from a total in that matchup. I'll quickly recap overall all the games. I like the Lions to win and cover the opening game. Fremantle haven't decided between the plus 5.5 or over 167.5. Hawthorn minus 13.5. Swans minus 20.5. Staying out of North Collingwood, but slight lean towards North plus 40.5. I had to pick a side, but likely won't be investing any money on it. And then Port Adelaide plus 9.5, but definitely also interested in them on the money line as well to close out the round. So that's how I'm considering playing it. I post all my bets in the investor.bet sports, which you find out in the description. Also with that, you get access to all the bet finders. So going through and breaking all the games down based on the statistics from every single team and where that stacks up overall in the league. The reason I created this is when I was first betting on AFL back over 10 years ago, I was like, I knew I needed to not just make decisions based on which team I think's good or which team I think's bad or who I think's going to win. I wanted to have more information to make those decisions. When you go to the AFL websites and that, you don't really get much. You get their recent form, who they've been winning against, and those kind of things. But when you go to the team stats, it's really shown in a way which doesn't really give you much at all. It's got the basic disposals, kicks, inside 50s, efficiency, free kicks, clearances, uncontested possessions, and marks. So not really all that much stuff to get you narrowing down, okay, which team, has the edge in these categories. And also when you look at the data, it's very hard to distinguish. You really have to look to break down, okay, the Lions are better in that category. Oh, the Saints are better in that category. It's very, very hard to analyze. So I wanted a way that was very easy to go through, look at a game. So for example, the Lions Saints here, you can see that Brisbane are clearly the better attacking side. In every key metric, their average is better than the Saints. And you can also see where they stack up in terms of the entire league and their overall ranking. We can also see we've got the 3rd ranked to 4th ranked defensive sides overall in the league going up against each other. So 2 good defensive side. We can see that teams have a really good shot accuracy against the Lions. They're ranked 15th in the league for that category and so on and so forth. But this has all the games. You can go through, really break them down, see where teams stack up, see where, their efficiency rankings are, which are really, really important. So if you want to start using these for finding your bets on the AFL for the second half of the season, definitely check out the bet finders. You also get the player matchups and all the betting information. So the player matchups allow you to see which key players are in and out and how that's going to impact that team's performance, plus all the rankings and so on and so forth for every single game. So you have everything you could possibly need, all the disposals, goals, trends for every single player, everything you need to make your decisions, whether you're betting on teams, totals, sides, or handicaps or player props in the AFL every week. So definitely click the link in the description, check it out, so you can start winning more money on the AFL this season. So good luck with your bets this weekend. I'll be posting videos like this, going through different betting strategies all season. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get more videos just like this.